Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wellbeing Connection. My name is Joni Rampolla, and I am one of the registered licensed dietitians with your Giant and Martin stores. And today we are talking all about diabetes, and I'm calling it You're Sweet Enough Already, right? We don't need blood sugar highs to be sweet. We're talking about balanced nutrition to thrive with prediabetes. And let's dive in and get started. Thanks for being here. All right, so here I'm starting with a did you know? And let me just move my Q&A box because it is in my vision. Did you know, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, what we know as the CDC, over 38 million Americans, which is like 1 in 10 people, have been diagnosed with diabetes. Of those people diagnosed, 95% of those cases are type 2 diabetes. But there's an additional 8.7 million adults who have undiagnosed diabetes, and that's why you see 3 out of 10 people. And undiagnosed means if you got a blood test, it would show that you have diabetes, but you're saying you don't know that you have diabetes. Nobody told you the diagnosis, or you didn't understand it if you were told. So, what is diabetes? Diabetes is a disease of high blood sugar. It happens when your body can't make or use its own insulin. And there are different types of diabetes. There's prediabetes, there's type 1 diabetes, and type 2. And again, like we said, over 90%, 90 to 95% of all diabetes cases are type 2. There's also gestational diabetes, which a woman would get possibly during pregnancy, but we're not talking about that today. So type 2 is the most common and most impacted by the lifestyle that you choose, and especially your nutrition. So what you eat, how you move, how you take care of yourself can make a big difference in how you feel and how your body responds. So let's start with prediabetes. In prediabetes, your cells start to ignore insulin signal. This is called insulin resistance. This is where it begins. The pancreas tries to make more insulin, but eventually it just can't keep up. And this causes too much sugar to stay in the blood, leading to high blood sugar over time. So prediabetes is diagnosed by a hemoglobin A1C, which we sometimes just abbreviate and call an A1C, and that percentage is 5.7 to 6.4 is the diagnosis. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too, a little bit more into hemoglobin A1C, or a fasting glucose where you don't eat for at least 12 hours and then you test your blood sugar. That is a fasting glucose. And that would be over 100, but to 125. Or an oral glucose tolerance test where you drink a little glucola and they test your blood over a 2-hour period several times. And that number would be 140 to 199. There's often no symptoms to prediabetes. Many people don't know they have it because they don't have symptoms. But wait, get this number. 1 in 3 American adults have prediabetes, even though most don't know they have it. 1 in 3. So, how many people are on here? Let's say there's over 500 people on here today. If you think of 1 in 3, how many people have prediabetes? It's a lot. And then there's type 1 diabetes. They used to call this juvenile diabetes because it's commonly diagnosed in children. The pancreas makes little or no insulin at all, creating a need for insulin injections. So type 1 is considered an autoimmune disorder. They need insulin therapy to transport the glucose to the body cells. So type 1 diabetes cannot be prevented through lifestyle, where type 2, we said, can, and prediabetes can. So type 2 is the most common form of diabetes. It can develop at any age. Children can get it as well as adults. It's where your pancreas does not make enough insulin, or it's making the insulin, but your body's becoming resistant to that insulin. It can't use it effectively. So, how do you manage diabetes? Nutrition, physical activity, and medication. Type 2 diabetes is when the body has a harder time using insulin to keep blood sugar in check. That can lead to higher blood sugar levels. And again, as we said, the most common form of diabetes, and it's most impacted by your lifestyle and nutrition, which means you have control. Whether you have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, you are in control. And that is the empowering part. What you eat, how you move, how you take care of yourself can be a big difference in how you feel and how your body responds. So it's not about restriction, it's not about guilt. It's rather finding balance, making choices that work for your real life. So let's understand diabetes and nutrition, and same goes for prediabetes. Every time you eat, especially a food containing carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. That is totally normal. That happens in everybody. But what we want to avoid is a super high, big spike in your blood sugar, which is always followed by a crash. So that roller coaster, high, low of blood sugars can leave us tired, cranky, craving more sugar. So our goal instead is steady, stable energy. Not all carbohydrates are the same. So on one end, you have simple carbohydrates like white bread, soda, or candy. These are digested quickly and spike your blood sugar fast, right? You want something that has more staying power, like a complex carbohydrate, which would be something that contains fiber, like whole grains and beans, fruits and vegetables. They break down more slowly thanks to the fiber. The pancreas raises insulin, or hormone that acts like a key, and insulin unlocks the door to your cells. So glucose can move out of the blood and into your cells and your muscles to be used for energy or stored. So I talked a little bit about hemoglobin A1C when we talked about diagnosing prediabetes. So I want to just go a little bit deeper into what it is. So hemoglobin A1C is a blood test that shows your average blood sugar, and why it's so effective is it shows your blood sugar over like a 3-month time. So it's a bigger picture for measuring blood sugar rather than just that one moment of a finger stick that measures what is it right now, right? It gives you 3 months worth of how controlled have you been. And why that matters is because the higher your blood sugar has been, the more sugar. So sugar is sticky. Glucose is blood sugar. It's sticky. It sticks to your red blood cells, and those red blood cells we're calling hemoglobin. And since red blood cells live about 3 months, this test helps doctors see how well your blood sugar has been controlled over time. How much sugar is sticking to those red blood cells since they turn over every 3 months. You're getting a whole new picture every 3 months. So it's an important tool for managing type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or checking how well a treatment plan is actually working. So what affects your hemoglobin A1C? Your food choices, your portion sizes, how active you are, because activity is one of the best things you can do to lower your blood sugar levels. If you're taking your medications that are prescribed, like insulin or a pill, if you've been stressed, you've had an illness, you're lacking sleep, all those things can raise blood sugar. Consistency in eating and your movement routines. The more consistent you stay to a program, the more likely your blood sugar will be controlled. So your hemoglobin A1C, or sometimes you hear called just A1C, below 5.7, we call that normal. 5.7 to 6.4, we call prediabetes. 6.5 or higher, we call diabetes. And the goal for many people with diabetes can be 7% or less. It's never really getting back to normal. It's just kind of controlling it. And that depends on your age, your health status, your personal healthcare provider has to tell you what the right range for you is. So we're not deciding that here. All right, what are signs and symptoms of diabetes? I'll say the biggest two are frequent urination, going to the bathroom a lot, and unusual thirst. If you're always thirsty and always running to the bathroom, they are the biggest signs and symptoms. And then your test results can also tell you if you have diabetes, and that could be the fasting glucose test, your hemoglobin A1C test, or that oral glucose tolerance test. Those are the three ways that a doctor can be alerted to your blood sugar levels. So why is it important to manage your blood sugar levels? Over time, high blood glucose, which is your blood sugar levels, can lead to health issues if it's not controlled. Right? If we keep it spiking high every single day and we don't do anything about it, it can lead to heart disease, a stroke, kidney disease, eye problems, dental disease, nerve damage, foot problems. And that is because blood sugar, right? It travels in your blood. Your blood hits every single organ throughout your body. So literally high blood sugar affects almost every single organ throughout your body. Dietitians or your personal healthcare team are really important to help you manage that blood sugar because it needs to be managed because you can avoid all those symptoms with management. Meal timing and balance is important. So when we say balance your meals for diabetes, the plate looks slightly different than general health. So here is a plate that I grabbed this picture from the Diabetes Food Hub, and how the plate is different is it shows half of your plate should be non-starchy vegetables, where on the traditional plate, it's half of your plate is fruit and vegetables. For diabetes, we're focusing on just the vegetable, non-starchy vegetable part. Protein is the same. A quarter of your plate should be protein, but all the carbohydrate group are put into 1/4 of your plate. So all your carbohydrate group would be your fruit, your dairy products, your breads, your any kind of grain, your rice, your pasta. So all of that is a carbohydrate containing food is in that quarter of your plate. So half your plate is vegetables, a quarter is protein, and then a quarter is a carbohydrate food. So the plate method is a simple tool for portioning your carbohydrates alongside other nutrients. And if you notice on the traditional plate, outside the plate could be dairy, but this has water or 0-calorie drinks instead. So you don't want to skip meals. You want to make sure that you're eating to spread that carbohydrate evenly throughout your day. That could be 3 meals. It could be including 1, 2, or 3 snacks with that. You want to prevent extreme hunger, but also avoid overeating carbohydrates. The more your schedule is consistent, the better. And I just want to say, I see some people's hands going up. When I am done, I will save time to answer your questions. How food affects blood sugar. So simple carbohydrates raise blood sugar. Fiber, protein, and fat slow the rise. So we want balance, not elimination of those carbohydrates. So it's not necessarily what you eat, it's how you pair it as well. And there's no one diet that's perfect for diabetes. Like I can't say do this and it's going to work for you. There are lots of styles that can work. So some people choose Mediterranean, some choose more vegetarian, some like that low carbohydrate style of eating. But you can work with your healthcare professional to help you find the plan that's right for you. But there are specific guidelines that work for everybody, no matter what your style of eating. And that would be including lots of non-starchy vegetables. And want to just touch base on that because I think when I showed the plate, I didn't say what starchy is. So a starchy vegetable is like corn, peas, potatoes. Even though they're a vegetable, they go in that starch category where every other vegetable would be considered non-starchy. You want to minimize those added sugar and refined grains. You want to include whole grains like 100% whole wheat or oats, pair foods to create balance. And what I mean by that is when you have your carbohydrate, pair it with a protein and make sure that carbohydrate has some fiber. So foods that contain carbohydrates are your grains and starches, your fruit and fruit juice, your starchy vegetables like your corn, peas, and potatoes, your beans and legumes, your dairy foods, and then the whole sweet junk food, soda, everything else that has carbohydrates. So all of those are your carbohydrate containing foods. So all of those would be a quarter of your plate. So you want to aim for fiber containing carbs most of the time, not saying you can't have sugar, you can, but you want to have your protein and some fiber when you have your sugar. So again, this is a typical carbohydrate requirement, not saying this is the right amount for you, but generally men, 40 to 65 grams of carbohydrate per meal, 15 to 20 grams per snack. And then women, 30 to 45 grams of carbohydrate per meal and 15 grams per snack. So whole carbohydrates versus refined carbohydrates. And I just have some pictures of the whole. And even though they are whole carbohydrates, some of them like the fruits or the starchy vegetables or the corn, they go into that other portion of the plate. But they contain fiber. That's why they're better than a refined carbohydrate would be like that white flour, white bread, white rice, your candy, your pastries, your sugary cereal. So things like white bread, white flour, white rice still has good nutrition in it. It's not like candy and soda that you're getting zero nutrition, but it's missing the fiber of a whole grain. That's the difference. The fiber slows down the absorption of the sugar into your blood, so prevents a spike. So fiber slows down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, prevents the blood spike, so it helps regulate your blood sugar. That's why it's important. It's also important to keep hydrated. So when you're choosing what to drink, zero carbohydrate drinks are definitely the best. So whether it's water, seltzer water, zero calorie sparkling water, unsweetened tea, or unsweetened coffee, they are all better than things that have carbohydrates. You can also choose a low carbohydrate option like a low fat milk or milk alternative, kombucha, or a green smoothie are things that are nutritious and better. So let's talk a little bit more about pairings. So carbohydrates aren't bad. They just need partners to pair with so that they don't spike your blood sugar. So combining carbohydrates with lean protein or healthy fat slows digestion and absorption, and that's why you want them. Slows the blood sugar. Pairing examples would be like apple, the carbohydrate, with protein and fat, peanut butter. Oatmeal, the carbohydrate, with protein and also some carbohydrate, Greek yogurt. Tuna pouch, protein with the carbohydrate, whole grain crackers. Berries and almonds, so you get some protein, carbohydrate. Cheese on whole wheat toast, again, protein and carbohydrate. And this is the plate again, just the reminder. So this is what it looks like. Then I want to just show you some examples. So if I did the balanced diet, it would be half non-starchy vegetables, a quarter lean protein, that's scallops, and then grainy or starchy vegetables, my rice and corn. So that's it fitting in its neat compartments, but we don't always eat in neat compartments. So this is another one, my salmon, my rice, and then my broccoli rabe. Or it could be a taco. There's my tortilla shells, and I have either my beans or meat, whatever the filling is, with all the vegetables. Or it could be I'm just having pita chips with hummus and some eggplant caponata, lots of vegetables in it. Or it could be I'm having a tofu stir fry. So I have my rice mixture with some tofu and vegetables, and they all have that same diagram of half of the plate vegetables, quarter protein, a quarter starch. All right, gotta give a shout out to physical activity here. You want to move in a way that's enjoyable to you. It helps your cells become more sensitive to insulin. It improves your blood sugar. Recommended is 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. So you even get 2 days off if you wish. Stay hydrated, prevent that low blood sugar. And activity after a meal is so helpful for preventing a blood sugar high. So even if you walk 5 minutes out, 5 minutes back, you get that quick 10-minute walk after a meal, super helpful to control blood sugar. And if you are doing heavy activity, make sure you check your blood sugar before, during, and after activity. And then weight loss can also be helpful if you're someone that is overweight. Weight loss can improve insulin sensitivity to support blood sugar control, lower blood pressure, and reduce the risk of heart disease. Start with no more than 5 to 10% of your current weight as your goal, and just losing 5% of your current body weight, even if it's not putting you, in an overweight category, you're still obese by losing 5%, it's enough to change your blood sugar numbers. So it's a great thing to do. Think about the lifestyle changes you can do, including diet and physical activity that will change your blood sugar levels. And then there are also other methods for weight loss, whether they're medication or surgery, things you may want to consider. So takeaways for today. All forms of diabetes are manageable. And you want to pair foods for a balanced meal, including protein and fiber, which help food stay in your system a little bit longer, preventing that blood sugar spike. Eat foods that contain fiber for your carbohydrates, including whole fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Move your body daily. Movement, physical activity is so important. And there's some research showing it works just as good as medication. Get yourself active. And if you are on medication, make sure you take it as directed, because it is important to control that blood sugar. And thank you. I'm going to stop sharing and see if you have any questions. Let me open up my little Q&A box here. All right. What is the insulin signal? So when your blood sugar spikes high, insulin comes out to take that sugar out of your blood and bring it to the cells for energy, or stores it as fat. It does both. When your cells kind of say, insulin, you're bringing too much to my door, and they become insulin resistant, you don't have any signs or symptoms of that. But when your blood sugar is high and insulin is taking that sugar out of your blood, it always overcompensates, which means your blood sugar always goes lower than where it started. When that happens and your blood sugar gets low, then you do feel hungry. So hunger could be a symptom. I don't know that you necessarily feel insulin spikes, if that makes sense. Is prediabetes reversible? 100%. So diabetes can be controlled to the point where you don't need medication, you don't need anything. Prediabetes is just saying you're on your way to diabetes. If you do nothing different, within 10 years, you will have diabetes. But if you implement exercise and eating more protein and fiber and making sure you're well hydrated and moving your body more, just your blood sugar normalizes. And that's what we want. When testing for pre or diabetes, do or can they test to see if the pancreas is not making enough insulin or if your body is not using a good supply of insulin properly? It seems important to know. So I will say this, I agree with you. It seems really important to know um, how your body's doing with insulin. And most physicians do not test that. You can ask for that test, but that is not a routine test. They wait until your blood sugar gets high. If you test for insulin, you could notice that your blood sugar, I mean, that your insulin level is high because it's working so hard to get that sugar out of your blood. Your body's sending out more insulin than needed. And when that happens, like that's even before your blood sugar gets high, like that's a sign that high blood sugar's coming if you don't do something different, but doctors don't routinely test for that, but that would be great to know your insulin level. Once diagnosed with diabetes, is there a way to reverse it? I feel like we just talked about that during this class. Yes, exercise, eat more protein and fiber containing foods, um, and just look at your lifestyle in general, reduce stress, get enough sleep. All those things can work to help you reduce blood sugar. Since insulin is made in the pancreas, are there any diets specifically for pancreas health, the way there are for heart health? So controlling your blood sugar is the best thing you can do for your pancreas, right? Preventing that high spike and then the high low. You are quite welcome. Thank you for that. Do most doctors request a baseline A1C when you reach a certain age? I will say yes. I mean, most primary care doctors do that annual check of a A1C or at least every 2, 3 years. Do GLP-1s help with diabetes? So GLP-1s are medication that are made for diabetes and also some, depending on the dose, for weight loss. So I will say yes, that is um, a drug that will help control blood sugar and does it very well. Is honey a better sweetener for coffee and tea than sugar? Well, that is a great question. And my answer is honey does contain some minerals and vitamins that sugar doesn't have any of those, but the way it reacts with your blood sugar is exactly the same. Honey can still give you that blood sugar spike. So if you have prediabetes or diabetes, to me, the quantity of sweetener matters, not as much as the type. So you're getting more nutrient dense honey, but it doesn't have protein or fiber, so it's not going to slow down its spike of sugar. I hope that helped answer your questions. I don't see any more open questions, but I am so appreciative. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And I hope you learned something about diabetes. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. Bye. Thank you.